So you got viruses in Chrome? What's going on?
They got extensions when you install too much shit that make you think you have viruses, and then you click the button and they're like, hey, send us Bitcoin money so we can't track you. Actually, I don't know if that's what they want, but that's what I would do if I was scamming people, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but it's time. Demasi and Michael, just talking tech.
Yeah, I don't know how much I actually trust this whole Bitcoin thing, though, because it seems like, the price fluctuates.
I realized how much money I lost because I knew about it in 2008, didn't take action, and then, yeah, so I said, I don't want to follow this anymore.
Yeah, that was part of the thing with it, too. It's like I missed out on the beginning of it, because I would have been on cashed out by now. Like, I would have cashed out a long time ago if I'd have started.
At least some of it. At least enough to make my family set for life, you know? Because back then, it was not dollars. It was pennies for Bitcoin. Or spending an hour and a half running some hardcore graphics software or hardcore graphics hardware to generate them for you.
It didn't have to be that hardcore. Like, it was... the laptop that I was probably using at the time, if I remember correctly, was a Windows Vista machine. It might have crashed in the middle of generating it, but I could have, started it, went to bed, and woke up and had some Bitcoins.
Right.
Like that's literally how people were doing it in the beginning until it caught on. That's when you had to start, really going after the higher graphics cards.
I would have sold then because that's how I am. Because, I probably would have kept one or two, but I would have sold a majority of them when it started to pick up popularity myself.
I would have waited to see if it had blown up because it didn't cost me anything to get into it. So, like, as long as I hadn't actually invested my money into it.
I can't speak what I would do if I wasn't actually in the situation, because if I hadn't invested my money, who's to say I wouldn't start investing a little bit of my money at that time? Because I'm like, hey, I made this much money already. Why don't I invest more money to make more off of it?
Yeah, I probably would have busted around about 2016 or something. Whenever it spiked up to like $2,000 for a Bitcoin or something, I'm like, all right, I'm out. I don't care if it goes up anymore. For me. I'm done.
Would have kicked myself, but in retro, like now, I would have been like, all right, I'm pretty happy with my decision.
Yeah, because it went back down. My thing is, like, I feel like at some point it's gonna, like, I think the theory behind Bitcoin is something that the world globally eventually is gonna switch to something like that. I just think we're going to have to. But I feel like Bitcoin itself and its, clones that are out there right now as well are going to eventually collapse. And, like, what you have in there is not going to be worth anything. And it's not worth me investing my money into it. I'm certainly not going to go buy a server farm to mine Bitcoin now.
Hey, there are people that I'm listening to podcasts about that are investing money into server farms and next to dams, so they're all naturally generated, so they don't have to rely on the power grid. And it's an intriguing, like, though it doesn't have as much popularity as it does now, it's still doing something, and that's what intrigues me a little. I used Intrigue like 10 times.
Yeah, it would be nice if those people, took those skills and maybe applied them to trying to help clean up the electricity grid in general.
Yeah, or
versus
yeah. What are your thoughts about EVs? I know we've kind of mentioned them in the past. I'm listening to a good podcast. I'll link to it in the show notes over at, do you know?
youronpay.com/dm39.
Wow. So I'm listening to a podcast called EV News Daily, and it's a gentleman from... He's got a British accent. I don't know exactly where he's from. And it talks about the latest in EVs or electric vehicles. And that intrigues me, especially now that we have a Tesla. It's like, wait, no, edit that out. I wish. No.
I'm totally leaving that shit. Now that we got a Tesla.
Now that we have a Prius, huge difference. Now, people know what my goal is. Anyone asks me, what's your goal? I'm going to get a Tesla, so that way in dm39, I'm not lying. With the Prius, I've been interested more in EVs, not not necessarily for environment saving reasons, but more for the accessibility of them. And there's been some news that Tesla, from what I understand, has full autonomy from on-ramp to off-ramp on the highways. And the only thing that's holding them back is regulation in different states. So I'm following this technology and I'm intrigued by it.
So one thing I'll point out, just in case other people want to jump in, and we know other people also have this too.
Yep.
The autonomy from the on ramp, pretty much on any highway, you're fine to let the car take over.
Any vehicle released now, pretty much. I mean, in some aspect of it.
Yeah, most of them have some kind of autonomous something. Like the self-parking cars have been around for a while.
Yep.
I know, as far as, at least from what I know, I'm not a car person like that anymore. So Audi, Mercedes, maybe, yep, BMW, and Tesla, I think, are doing like the most interesting things as far as trying to push the ball forward, and everybody else is just kind of coming along as things mature. There have been some, accidents here and there reported of people. Some of them are human mistakes because they just weren't paying attention when they should have been paying attention, which is unfortunate for the technology, because when a human makes a mistake, when they've been given a signal by the vehicle to, maybe you want to take over now or pay attention, and you ignore that, like, yeah, it's to their detriment and also to the detriment of anyone else involved in that accident, but it's also to the detriment of the technology, simply because the first thing that people who are against it, do is jump up in arms and say, see, we knew these autonomous vehicles would not work.
The one thing that seems to be the biggest thing with EVs is finding a compatible charging process that I never even thought about. Like a vehicle now, you go to a gas station and you can get gas, you can get unleaded, leaded, or diesel, and in 90% of the cases. But apparently the billing process with EVs is not, at least in the UK, a unified system. So I'm interested to see where that goes, and it could possibly go back to Bitcoin and keeping track of it that way too. Because you can fill up an EV and get, somewhere around 300 miles. That's average, 250 to 300 miles on a full charge for like $10. That's
but you're saying in the UK, like, they're having problems actually billing people for that because that is a cost to whoever's running the charging station. Like, that's their electric bill that's being affected.
Not necessarily billing, but unifying the process of billing. Like, are we going to use Apple Pay all the way around? Are we going to do your debit card, or should we just charge your house billing account, like your house electric account?
Gotcha. I got you. That could create problems, though. There should be some way for you to just pay at the charging station. Like, you can't access the charging station until you pay, or once you.
From what I understand, that's what it is now. Or you can use like a phone wallet or something like that. But you never know how you're going to have to pay at the charger when you get there.
Gotcha. So it's like when you pull up somewhere, you don't know, like, okay, I know I'm going to have to pay for this, but how?
Do I need an account for this company?
Do I? Oh, geez, not an account for the specific company.
Right.
No, that is totally the wrong way to do it. You don't need an account at the gas station.
Yeah, man. That's the issue. I mean, but again, $10 to get you 300 miles, so give and take.
Yeah, I mean, there's fluctuations with that, but it's sort of like gas in a sense. Like, if power, like if it's middle of summer, somewhere, more likely your energy costs are going to be slightly higher, just like, high travel times for gasoline vehicles. Gas prices go up. Like, everybody sees that. You see that, coming up around Memorial Day, end of school year.
And then with the EVs during the winter, because of the way the batteries work, you get shorter distances, so you're going to be paying more. Like, hopefully it'll balance out, but I don't know because I don't own one. Anyone who owns one, leave us a comment in the show notes, and that's all that I got on EV topics.
It's interesting, though. What I thought you were going to talk about with that, because I'm sticking on that topic for a second, because what I actually thought you were going to talk about was the compatibility of said vehicle with a charger. Because my understanding is that it's still this way, that some vehicles are sort of standardized on you can use these if you have I don't know, a Prius or whatever,
right?
Or whatever.
If you have one of the new Honda EVs that they just announced.
Yeah, but if you got a Tesla, you're looking for a Tesla specific location. Like you can't just pull up where the Honda person might pull up at in a lot of cases. And I think that Tesla's idea initially, Elon Musk's idea initially at least, was to have Tesla sort of take over that whole deal and have everybody standardize on what Tesla was using. But I could have that wrong. First of all, I will admit that I could have that wrong, and I do know that did not happen. Whether it was his plan or not.
We just need to get to the point where you pull up to a stoplight, your car will wirelessly charge a little bit, and then you move on. Because the other issue that you have is these stupid little half hybrid charging cars where you can actually plug them in, and I'm saying this just to repeat the podcast content because I have no experience with it myself, but I imagine they only they trickle charge, and they're plugged into one of those superchargers, the ones that charge extra fast, and you've got a car that only takes a couple of minutes to charge to full, and they put their car on the charger because they know it's going to take it a couple of hours to charge and go do their grocery shopping, so you can't take advantage of that power charger because they've got their car hooked up to it. So apparently that's an issue too.
Yeah, and all you need is a little boost.
Yep.
So you ain't got to go put gas in the tank or something. That's interesting. I think we're going to see less of that being an issue, though, as more EVs come out and we start to see less of the hybrid vehicles.
Yeah, definitely. I'll shoot you this. Well, obviously the link will be in the show notes. You should give it a listen when you get a minute. He keeps them under 20 minutes long, so I love that. Because in Pocket Cast, I'm playing them at 2x, so it's 10 minutes, 9 minutes, something around there.
I'm doing something interesting with our recording today, so I don't think we've talked about like our recording setups in a while anyway.
No, we haven't, not since
actually,
DM11 or 12, somewhere around there.
We'll drop a link in the show notes where we talked about whatever the hell we were doing. Well, one thing, Mike, I got my AT 2005 back.
Interesting. I'm using the Samsung Q2 still, and what's very interesting, and I'll have to grab a copy of it. It's not the best audio because I was reading something, and I realized that me reading, I just need to memorize stuff. Anyways, I have the audio from this microphone with a little bit of compression, the audio boosted to, or the audio hard limited to -3 boosted by 6, airing on FM radio. So in the in the right environment, as you always say, you can use a decent microphone. And these microphones, I've seen these. All three of them, AT 2100, 2105, and the Samsung Q2 go on sale for as low as $39. It just depends when you buy them.
We'll drop a link to the podcast deals email list so you can subscribe to that. They do send out pretty good deals. I think, the matter of fact, the microphone, the Samsung mic that Mike has was on sale a few months ago. I just didn't need one, but it was on sale for about $39 on Amazon. So. Yeah, all three of these are very, very good USB mics. I've never used a Rode
I don't
podcaster. A lot of people like those. I don't think it would work for me particularly, but I actually like the Audio Technica. My favorite happens to just be the 2005, but the 2100 is great. I have one of those actually laying over here on the desk. And Mike has the Samsung Q2, U2.
I think it's the Q2U. I will put the exact link in the show notes.
We'll put a link in the show notes to the microphone is what we'll do.
Thank you for show notes. That's always awesome. I will say I do like to hear my voice on other high quality microphones though. And if
there's nothing like a really good high quality mic though. Like it's not that I'm ever gonna say like, oh yeah, you can get just as good a sound out of a USB mic as you can. No, you're never gonna get as good a sound out of a USB mic as you can get out of a good XLR microphone.
Right. No.
But a good USB mic can take you a long way, especially if you're building a recording setup on a budget, or if you're one of those people that very rarely does it, so you don't need to invest in all the other equipment you need besides the good microphone. Like if you get an XLR mic, you got to get a XLR interface. So here's what I'm doing recording wise. We still got the same equipment basically. I'm sitting in front of a 2015 MacBook Pro versus probably a 2013 at the time we recorded the previous show talking about this.
Yep.
One tool that I've been practicing with this because I see some future applications for it. Like it's not as critical with me and you recording because you know how to record yourself, and so that we always gonna have a good file from both ends. But what I am doing is, so I'm using Loopback, and I'm using Loopback version 2 specifically. You could do this with Loopback 1. I honestly think it might be a little bit easier in Loopback 2. But what I have going on is I have Reaper open. So I'm doing the Michael right now. I have Reaper open, recording myself directly to one track, but I'm also recording Michael, I hope, to another track.
We'll find out and put it in the show notes.
Now, I don't think the quality of Mike is going to be as good as mine, because he's, of course, coming across the internet. So it's a little different, but we'll see what it actually sounds like. And the reason I wanted to do this is because it gives me a portable sort of environment to be able to record multiple things to specific tracks inside of Reaper using Loopback. Which is interesting to me. It's fun. It was a fun technical challenge to try to solve it, because I did run into a couple of issues. But it also, I think, can serve some purposes when you're trying to record something with somebody that does not have the savvy or the technology or the apps or whatever to record themselves locally. You can still pull in something usable, I think, as long as your connection is decent.
And then which tool are we using to chat on?
We are using, what the hell?
Source Connects Now. Source Elements.
That's what it's called. See, I was going to say, like, I always forget. See? Yeah, no, you did it too. It's like, so I know some words that go here.
Yep.
Source Connect Now is the title of the page that I happen to be on inside of Chrome. And Source Connect is a super cool tool.
Right.
Like, it is super nice.
What
do you have to have Chrome?
Are you in 128 in Source Connect now? Because I switched mine to 256 so we can mix down and we hopefully won't lose quality if we have to use that file.
I am at 256.
Okay, I did mono this time. I don't know why. So that might fuck with some of our recordings, but I don't think so.
No, well, we'll see, man. It'll be all right. I don't think anybody's going to know. By the time we compress it down to MP3,
right.
It's not going to matter anyway.
Lose all that sound quality anyways. And we throw all those files into Google Drive Teams for an episode. I have to learn the mixer at work, and I have to keep reminding myself it looks a lot more complicated than what it is because it has so many abilities, but how many abilities are you actually going to use on a regular basis? Like on a regular show, you're going to hit one switch to go live, and then you're going to have to bring in possibly 1 to 3 guests and then possibly a phone participant. And so that's like 6 levels that you're going to have to learn how to manage. And once you get that down, or like 7 different controls, I imagine. I don't know. I haven't sat down and learned it yet.
It's not as daunting as it seems. Because with most big mixing boards like that, like the big thing is once you learn, all of your inputs, all of your channels, basically are the same as far as the controls go. Like there are very few cases where a channel input or output is going to have completely totally different controls for that particular channel. Right. So once you know how to control your mic input and adjust your gain and adjust any compression if the mixer has that built in or anything like that, you'll be familiar with where those knobs are located. And most times like a sort of default-ish type of setting, which means, once you get it tweaked right, like you don't have to touch it all that often. You may have to do a little tweak here, a little tweak there, depending on the person that's actually on the mic or calling in, but you don't have to do radical adjustments to it once you kind of got it in that area where you want it.
I will tell you, it is interesting not being the youngest person working there. We've got a 20-year-old working there. Shout out to you, Havoc. Hopefully you're listening because you say you listen to podcasts, so I had to throw that in there. And it's interesting not being the youngest person because I'm learning a lot from him, which some might not think is typical. Like some of the processes that he's doing, we're realizing, hey, this has been done this way for a year or more, and it's non-digital. For example, we're printing these papers out and we're running them back. Why not throw them in an email or throw them in a Slack message and try to systematize that? But trying to work with some people who are set in their ways can definitely be an interesting adventure. And at work, I'm using Google Docs just to quickly keep notes and have it synchronized. So if I want to write in what script I want to use to close my weather breaks with, I have access to it anywhere, and I'm just comfortable in Google Docs now. And it's kind of weird because 2 years ago I wasn't.
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually was. I meant to tell you. I was going to shoot you a message yesterday. I'm like, hey, thanks, Mike, because I was listening to the Apple event. So we're recording this.
Tuesday the 26th.
Day after. the day after the Apple services announcement. So I listened to the event, or most of it, on Monday. And I was like, well, I'm going to take some notes in case we decide we want to talk about it on the show or just to pull out some highlights. And I actually went to Google Docs and opened it up, partially because I wanted to put the file into our team drive folder for dm39 and see how that whole flow worked. But it was overall comfortable, other than Google Docs does not seem to like Markdown.
We need to look into that.
Something to deal with that. You had a Markdown editor that you had been using on the Chromebook. You remember the name of it?
Multi-Markdown or something like that. There'll be a link to the show notes because I don't exactly remember the name of it, but that stored your files in Google Drive. It did not use Google Docs, though. But I wonder if there's some... So were you using the Android phone to input, or were you using iOS?
I was using Chrome on the Mac.
Why did I not consider that?
I was actually sitting at... probably because you thought I was walking around with my phone. I was for a while, but I came in here and sat down and said, well, I'll type some notes in. And I had it playing on the phone. So what I did is actually came in here and dropped my iPhone on the... Qi charger and let the audio just play through the speakers, and I typed into Google Docs, and when they got to some stuff that was boring that I didn't care about, I switched over and did some other things, and then when they came back to something, I was like, oh wait, what?
I need to pay attention.
I've seen a couple of different like scripts that'll convert stuff to, I mean, it's not super important that it works, but I'm just comfortable writing in Markdown so I don't have to try to remember shortcuts. That's mostly what it is that I'm lazy. And if I pop a Markdown file into Google Drive, like I would like to be able to edit it in a way that we can collaborate, because that's sort of the next step for me is actually real-time collaboration on a document.
Yeah, because we can collaborate on an MD file, but it's not real-time, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I start writing stuff and then you just write over what the hell I just wrote. And like, we never know what happened to stuff. And like, I'm pretty sure I made this point about this.
And of course, we could write Markdown and copy and paste it, but I have a feel like, for example, when you write HTTPS in a link, it's going to, even in parentheses, it's going to do some automatic formatting, which is going to screw with stuff in. So, yeah.
I did see one tip from somebody that says, make heavy use of your delete key or something like that, your backspace key. To make it stop, but that's aggravating. I'd rather just deal with this interface as it is than
because it's not horrible, especially in Chrome. Now, if you have a slow Windows 7 computer,
shout out to the job.
So I don't know if I ever told you the story. You might have heard hints of it, but Benjamin was in the back bedroom. It's got to be about 6, 7, 8 months now. And he had a dirty room. So I decided to clean it by throwing everything out in the yard. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah. So one of the things that got thrown out in the yard was a Google Home Mini. And I told him, I said, hey, go find it and you can put it back in your room. It'll probably work. And it was during the summer, so it was nice for a couple of days. He had a while to go find it. He never went to find it. And last Thursday or Friday, we were out doing our spring cleaning, putting some fence posts in so that way we can build out a little fence and keep the dogs in a different area. But we were out cleaning and we found the Google Home Mini. And I'm like, this thing's not going to work. There's no way this is going to work. It's been way too long. I went and plugged it in the living room and it answers responses. I reset it to factory defaults. It plays just fine. It answers responses, works just fine. So I have to give Google a little bit of credit. They make some durable products. I don't recommend you throwing yours outside for 6, 7, 8 months, but that was my experience with it.
Interesting. And they haven't previously, not to say that they didn't deserve it, but they have not previously had that sort of reputation of like their products being like super, tough, super durable. Although I haven't heard people say they break very easily either, but
Mallory's first question was, well, can we get more of those? And are they are they weather resistant? I'm like, no, I don't think they are weather resistant. No, I'm not going to invest money into it relying on it, but we'll explore options for outside speakers with voice control. So if you have any ideas, let me know.
I don't have any because I'm pretty sure Google does not say specifically these are weatherproof.
I'm thinking JBL has a few. The Flip series has a few voice control outside durable speakers.
Yeah, I was gonna say you probably have to look around for something that either has Google Assistant integration, or you probably are gonna be more likely to find something with Alexa.
I don't have anything else to add to this episode. We will talk about what it's like to work in a radio station next time, because I'll have a couple of weeks under my belt working there, and hopefully be able to catch up on some of the technology about that. And I don't know if Demasi has any ideas about what he wants to talk about next week, but you can follow me at Payown, P-A-Y-O-W-N on Twitter. And he's...
I'm at Damasi, D-A-M-A-S-H-E. Show notes, yourownpay.com/dm39.
You've been listening to Your Own Pay Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, visit yourownpay.com/cast for exclusive content and to contact us today. We're eager to hear your thoughts and about how you're making this podcast your own. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon. The Your Own Pay Podcast, yourownpay.com.